In the 18th century American South, having black skin meant the beginning of a tragic fate. Black slaves were bought and sold like livestock, and to ensure a continuous supply, their owners would forcibly breed them. The ones with good genes were kept for pleasure, while the rest were made into laborers. Human rights were non-existent. One day, a young black slave boy accidentally spilled red wine on his master. A girl, let's call her Cola, shielded the boy with her body, but instead of mercy, they were met with even crueler punishment. Cola's back was already torn and bloodied when Silong carried her away. To him, Cola was always a symbol of fortune, but Cola didn't see it that way. Her mother had abandoned her at birth to escape, and even her fellow slaves looked down on her. Silong had always resisted his fate. He secretly taught himself to read. In the book Gulliver's Travels, made him dream of a world where freedom was possible. A female slave pressured Silong into sleeping with her. If she didn't get pregnant, they would both face their master's whip. But no matter how much they tried to survive, the master always had ways to break them. When Master Long passed away, his brother inherited all his slaves. As the new master, he immediately enforced harsher rules. Slaves were no longer allowed to hold gatherings, and taxes were increased. To obtain better genes, he decided to personally oversee breeding. Unfortunately, Silong was chosen as one of the good genes, reduced to nothing but a breeding tool. That night, he couldn't sleep, holding on to his tattered book, yearning for a savior. During this time, a certain profession existed: slave hunters. Their job was to capture runaway slaves. One unfortunate runaway, a large man, was caught and strung up for punishment. While the masters feasted, the man was whipped mercilessly, then burned alive as an example to the rest. Silong took Cola's hand. They were determined to escape this nightmare. That night, Cola stole some sweet potatoes from the master and met Silong in the jungle. Unexpectedly, Cola's friend followed them. Silong refused to take her along, but Cola couldn't bear to leave her behind. Unfortunately, the friend was caught immediately. Cola ran for her life, colliding with a young white man. In a moment of desperation, she slashed his neck with a hoe. There was no turning back now. They traversed snake-infested swamps and desolate plains until they spotted a white rooftop, their gateway to freedom. Quickening their pace, they reached the home of John, an abolitionist who secretly protected black people. Beneath his house was a hidden cellar known as the Underground Railroad. However, the railroad wasn't literally underground, nor was it an actual train system. It was a metaphor, an intricate network of abolitionists helping slaves escape. The Underground Railroad is a series adapted from the novel of the same name. Silong and Cola boarded a train toward freedom, but was true freedom waiting ahead? Cola and Silong managed to escape and arrived in a northern state free of racial discrimination. It felt like paradise. Cola was placed in a dormitory for black people, where she received an education and was cared for by a dedicated teacher. Silong, gifted in learning, became an assistant to a local doctor. Though they were still at the bottom of society, this luxurious life was beyond anything they had imagined. Silong confessed his love for Cola. They had finally achieved the life they dreamed of. The teacher passionately preached about equality, advocating for black people's rights. However, a black woman suddenly broke down, crying uncontrollably.
No! They're taking my baby! They're taking my baby!
Her reaction disturbed Cola. She had been working on reenactments of Southern slavery for children's education, where white actors whipped black actors as part of the performance. But the sight of the whips rekindled her traumatic memories. Regular medical checkups raised further suspicions. The doctor subtly suggested she undergo sterilization. During her last visit, they even drew a vial of her blood. Meanwhile, Cola's roommate's baby mysteriously disappeared. Growing uneasy, she finally confronted her teacher.
I am asking you, why there ain't no black babies here?
At the same time, Silong discovered something alarming. Healthy black men were given medication that gradually weakened their bodies, until one man suddenly dropped dead. Confronting the doctor, Silong learned the horrifying truth. They were conducting genetic experiments on black people. The doctor justified it as sacrificing a few to save many from slavery. But all Silong wanted was respect, and this revelation shattered him. The teacher also revealed the truth. Black population growth was straining resources, so they enforced birth control to limit their numbers. What seemed like a free land was just another kind of prison. Realizing the deception, they sought out John and planned another escape. Silong sabotaged the medications, while Cola prepared for one last performance. But the slave hunters had already tracked them down. Zilong, now a target, barely avoided capture by disguising himself. Kola waited in the underground hideout, but Zilong never showed up. Just then, a train passed by. Desperate, she signaled for it to stop. The conductor, a friendly young man, explained that he was only an apprentice and wasn't authorized to take passengers. But seeing her desperate state, he agreed to help. Kola climbed aboard. Her next stop? The unknown. In North Carolina, a grand ceremony was taking place. A black girl was placed on a stage wearing a collar around her neck. Her crime? Simply being black. In the 18th century, racism was deeply ingrained in American society. White people mocked the idea of teaching black devils math, finding it laughable. Martin, a man in the crowd, forced a polite smile, but deep inside, he was terrified. 2 black girls were hiding in his attic. Kola had finally escaped slavery and boarded the train, only to arrive in a state even more hostile to black people. While working on the Underground Railroad, she met Martin and begged him to save her. Otherwise, she would starve to death. Being a kind-hearted man, he hesitated but eventually agreed.
I am not your master, but you must obey me.
I am not your master, but you must obey me. He had no idea this would be the worst mistake of his life. Martin hid Kola in his wagon and smuggled her into town. The sight was horrifying. Black bodies hung from posts as a warning. He took Kola to his attic, where another girl, let's call her Reese, was also hiding.
Very well. Leave her there to die.
So you brought her here? For us to die with?
I didn't know.
Reese explained the survival rules. This was not a place for reckless actions. One night, police visited Martin's home. Kola and Reese held their breath in the darkness as Martin struggled to maintain his composure. While the officers discussed their hatred for black people, Martin was forced to play along. But Kola couldn't stand being trapped. She demanded Martin help her escape. Their argument was cut short when Martin fell severely ill. His wife blamed Kola's presence for their misfortune. The slave hunters eventually arrived, forcing their way inside. Just when it seemed like Martin had successfully hidden Kola, she made a fatal mistake. She ran out of the attic. Martin and his wife were arrested on the spot, and their house was set on fire. Reese, still trapped inside, was left to burn alive. Kola was recaptured, her hope of freedom shattered once again. The Underground Railroad leading to freedom had been destroyed. As she was taken back to Georgia for punishment, the lead hunter executed Martin in cold blood. Kola, still defiant, asked how they found her. They continued marching forward. Her next trial was just beginning. This story reminds us that freedom is never given easily. It's a battle fought through blood, sacrifice, and unwavering hope. Kola and Zilong's journey represents the struggle of millions, a fight that continues even today. And as we reflect on history, we must remember, every person, regardless of race or background, deserves dignity, respect, and freedom.